The Eightfold Path to Total Liberation by Maha Moggallana, published by Lord Kabura's Haven. Introduction. Maha Moggallana, one of the Buddha's chief disciples alongside Sariputta, was revered for his extraordinary teaching and meditation skills and the mastery of supernatural powers, such as clairvoyance, teleportation, and communication with beings from other realms. His teachings and life deeply inspired those seeking wisdom through meditation and the exploration of the mind's hidden potentials. Moggallana, born into a Brahmin family, sought truth with his close friend Sariputta. Both were unsatisfied with traditional teachings until they encountered the Buddha's Dharma. After ordaining as monks, they quickly attained enlightenment, with Moggallana becoming renowned for his deep meditative abilities and psychic powers. Moggallana's supernatural abilities, developed through intense meditation, earned him the distinction as the foremost in these powers among the Buddha's disciples. His powers included clairvoyance, clairaudience, teleportation, and communication with gods and spirits. These abilities were never used for self-promotion but to further his understanding of the Dharma and assist others on the path to liberation. After the Buddha's passing, Moggallana became a revered teacher. Disciples from across Asia, India, Sri Lanka, China, and Southeast Asia, traveled to learn from him. His unique blend of profound spiritual wisdom and supernatural insight attracted students eager to master both meditation and the mysteries of existence. Moggallana emphasized deep concentration, jhana, as the foundation for spiritual power and wisdom. He often used his supernatural vision to teach about the karmic consequences of actions, stressing the importance of ethical behavior. Moggallana's encounters with various beings illustrated the interconnectedness of all life, urging his students to practice compassion and overcome delusion. He demonstrated resilience in confronting Mara, the tempter, teaching how to overcome inner challenges through mindfulness and clarity. A famous tale recounts Moggallana rescuing his mother from the realm of hungry ghosts, demonstrating both his supernatural abilities and the power of merit transfer. This act of deep compassion exemplifies his teachings on the importance of ethical conduct and virtuous deeds. Moggallana's legacy as a master teacher of meditation, supernatural powers, and the Dharma continues to inspire students across the world. "My dear students, the light in me honors the light in you," he said as he bowed before his students and sat on the floor. Today, we turn our attention to the profound wisdom of the Buddha as shared in the twin verses of the Dhammapada. Let us reflect deeply on this teaching, for it speaks to the very foundation of all spiritual practice, the power of our thoughts. We become what we think. These are simple words, yet their truth is profound and far-reaching. Our thoughts are the seeds from which our reality grows. Every thought, whether wholesome or unwholesome, plants itself in the soil of our mind and will, in time, bear fruit in our lives. Understand this: the mind is like a fertile field, and if we allow the seeds of anger, greed, or jealousy to sprout, we will harvest suffering and sorrow. But when we plant compassion, patience, and wisdom, our lives blossom with peace and joy. Let me share with you a story from ancient times. In the kingdom of Magadha, there lived a wise sage named Vyasa. He had two disciples, Jaya and Vijaya. Jaya was diligent and mindful, always tending to his thoughts with care. He practiced compassion, patience, and gratitude, and his life was filled with peace. Vijaya, on the other hand, let anger, jealousy, and desire fester in his heart. One day, Vijaya asked his master, "Why does Jaya seem so peaceful while I am constantly suffering?" The sage replied, "Jaya is a gardener of his mind, planting seeds of kindness and wisdom. You, Vijaya, allow weeds of anger and greed to take root. The mind shapes reality, and your thoughts are the architects of your future. Just like Jaya, we must be vigilant in tending to the thoughts we cultivate. Every thought influences what we say, and what we say shapes our actions. If we allow harmful thoughts to take root, they will grow strong and become the driving force behind our suffering. But the Buddha assures us that the reverse is true: if we cultivate pure, kind, and generous thoughts, happiness will follow us like a faithful shadow, never leaving our side. We must ask ourselves, are we nurturing love or hatred? Peace or turmoil? Through mindfulness, we can clear the weeds of harmful thinking and plant the seeds of goodness. Now, let us move to heedfulness. The Buddha stresses that heedfulness, constant vigilance and mindfulness, is the key to spiritual progress. Heedfulness is not merely a good intention, it is the discipline of living fully aware of each moment. Those who live without awareness are like travelers wandering in the dark, blind to the dangers around them. Imagine a warrior walking through a battlefield without armor or shield, heedless of the arrows flying toward him. My students, life is filled with challenges, and without heedfulness, we are vulnerable to suffering. There is an ancient story of Prince Arjuna from the Mahabharata. Arjuna, though a skilled warrior, became consumed by doubt and fear before a great battle. His mind was restless, and he forgot the teachings of heedfulness. It was only when Lord Krishna reminded him to live in the present, with awareness of his duty and the moment at hand, that Arjuna could regain his strength and clarity. This story teaches us that even the greatest warrior can falter without mindfulness. When we are heedful, we are like Arjuna after his awakening, able to face life's battles with courage and wisdom. Living with heedfulness means being present, aware of your breath, your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. When we drift through life heedlessly, our desires and habits dictate our behavior, often leading us down a path of regret. Heedfulness is the foundation of spiritual awakening and worldly success. With mindfulness, we make wise decisions, avoid conflict, and act with compassion. In every moment, we must train ourselves to remain awake. Next, the mind. The mind, my dear students, is both wondrous and dangerous. It is like a wild animal, restless, chaotic, and prone to wandering. If left untamed, it drags us into suffering. But when trained, the mind becomes a source of deep peace and wisdom. Consider the story of the great sage Asana. Asana dedicated his life to attaining enlightenment but struggled for years. He meditated in caves, practiced mindfulness, yet his mind remained turbulent. Frustrated, he almost gave up. One day, Asana witnessed a small bird sharpening its beak on a mountain rock, patiently wearing away the stone over time. This sight renewed his determination. He realized that training the mind is like wearing down a mountain, slow but possible with persistence. Asana resumed his practice, and over time, he tamed his restless mind, attaining great wisdom. The untrained mind leaps from desire to desire, swayed by temptations and fears. But through mindfulness and meditation, we can learn to observe our thoughts without becoming attached to them. Meditation is the tool we use to harness the mind, shaping it just as a craftsman shapes their materials. Though the mind resists stillness at first, with patience, it begins to settle, and a great calm arises. This calm is not fragile, it is rooted in the deep understanding of our inner nature. Once the mind is tamed, we gain the strength to face life's challenges with clarity and equanimity. Now, we arrive at a fresh chapter, flowers. The Buddha offers a teaching through the metaphor of flowers. Just as a flower blooms in beauty but fades quickly, so too do the moments of our lives pass. The petals of a flower, once fallen, cannot be replaced. In the same way, each moment that slips away is gone forever. This truth of impermanence invites us to recognize the preciousness of life. In the ancient kingdom of Kosala, there lived a young woman named Siddhartha. She was known for her great beauty, but she spent her days in sorrow, lamenting her fading youth. One day, she encountered a wandering monk who gifted her a single lotus flower. "Beauty fades, just as this flower will wilt," he said. "But wisdom and virtue, like the fragrance of this flower, endure." Siddhartha took the monk's words to heart, and from that day forward, she dedicated herself to acts of kindness and wisdom, finding peace in the fleeting nature of life. The Buddha's wisdom here is clear: focus on what truly matters, acts of kindness, patience, and understanding. Cultivate the flowers of virtue while you can, for time is short. Finally, let us reflect on another chapter, the fool. The Buddha contrasts the fool with the wise. A fool chases after fleeting desires, wealth, power, and status, mistaking these for true success. The fool is restless, always moving from one desire to the next, blind to the deeper meaning of life. An ancient story speaks of King Suddhodana, a ruler consumed by greed and power. He amassed wealth and conquered lands, but his heart remained empty. One day, a wise hermit visited his court and said, "Your kingdom is vast, but your spirit is barren. Seek not to fill your coffers, but to fill your heart with wisdom." Suddhodana, though reluctant, heeded the hermit's words. He turned inward, seeking understanding rather than conquest. In doing so, he found the peace that all his wealth could not provide. In contrast, the wise understand the value of humility and self-awareness. Wisdom is like a deep river, quiet, steady, and flowing with purpose. The wise do not chase external rewards, they cultivate understanding within. My students, as we contemplate these teachings, remember that they are not just words to be studied but truths to be lived. The Buddha's wisdom is an invitation to transform our lives from within. Through mindfulness, heedfulness, and mastery of the mind, we can transcend suffering and walk the path of peace, joy, and freedom. May these teachings be a light for your journey. My dear students, let us begin by understanding one of the most valuable qualities a wise person must possess: humility. Humility allows you to learn from all situations, even from those who seem to lack wisdom themselves. A humble heart sees every experience, whether joyous or painful, as an opportunity for growth. You must remember that wisdom is not a destination, but a path you walk throughout life. Each step holds a lesson. Take, for instance, the story of a young prince from ancient India. This prince was well educated, confident in his knowledge, and believed that wisdom was something he already possessed. One day, he encountered a simple beggar sitting by the riverbank. The beggar invited the prince to sit and listen to the sounds of the water. At first, the prince resisted, thinking himself too wise for such a trivial task, but eventually, he sat. As they listened, the beggar said, "The river flows effortlessly, changing its path when necessary, and never holds on to anything. Can you do the same with your life?" The prince, who once thought he knew everything, realized that he had been clinging to his pride and certainties. From that moment on, he approached life with more humility, learning from each experience and person he met. When we are humble, we accept our imperfections, and through that acceptance, we become more compassionate towards the flaws of others. Even in the mistakes we make, we see opportunities to deepen our understanding. The key to understanding. Now, let us turn our attention to mindfulness. If humility allows us to learn, mindfulness is what enables us to see clearly. Through mindfulness, we learn to see beyond mere appearances and into the essence of life. It is the practice of living fully in the present moment, without judgment or distraction. Only with this clarity can we act with wisdom. Consider the tale of the great sage Lao Tzu, who once observed a butterfly struggling to emerge from its cocoon. A student of his, moved by compassion, sought to help the butterfly by tearing open the cocoon. However, once freed, the butterfly could not fly, it had been deprived of the struggle that would have strengthened its wings. Lao Tzu turned to his student and said, "When we act without understanding, even our kindness can bring harm." Mindfulness helps us avoid this pitfall. By observing life with full awareness, we realize that each action, word, and thought carries consequences. The wise act with intention, knowing that their behavior shapes not only their own life but the lives of others. Mindfulness reveals the interconnectedness of all things, guiding us to act with care and purpose. The fool's blindness to the truth. Students, it is important to understand the contrast between the wise and the fool. The fool lives as though their days are limitless, pursuing pleasure without recognizing the fleeting nature of life. They may accumulate wealth or power, but they are impoverished in spirit, for they lack awareness of life's deeper truths. A famous story from the Middle East tells of a wealthy merchant who, despite his riches, could not find peace. He spent his life acquiring treasures, only to feel empty inside. One night, he dreamt of a wise man living in the desert, who he believed could give him the key to happiness. The next morning, he set out to find this man. After days of travel, he found the sage meditating under a tree, living with nothing but the sky above and the sand below. The merchant asked, "What must I do to find happiness?" The wise man smiled and said, "Give away everything you have, and you will see what remains." The merchant, outraged, left, unwilling to part with his wealth. He remained blind to the truth that true happiness is found not in possessions, but in inner peace and awareness. The wise, unlike the fool, know that clinging to transient things, whether they be material goods or fleeting pleasures, leads only to dissatisfaction. They find contentment in simplicity and in understanding the impermanence of life. The path of the wise. So, how do the wise differ? The wise walk a path of patience, inquiry, and self-reflection. They do not rush toward conclusions or force their way forward. Instead, they ask the deeper questions: what is the nature of my suffering? How can I live in harmony with the world around me? An ancient Greek story tells of the philosopher Socrates, who spent his life questioning those around him, not to outsmart them, but to uncover the truth. Socrates did not claim to have all the answers, but his wisdom lay in his willingness to seek, to remain curious. He famously said, "I know that I know nothing." In this humility, he embodied the path of the wise, one who continually seeks deeper understanding without attachment to being right. On this path, the wise remain open to the lessons life brings, knowing that the journey itself is of utmost importance. The true value of wisdom. Finally, dear students, understand that wisdom is far more valuable than knowledge or cleverness. Knowledge is simply the accumulation of facts. Wisdom, however, touches the soul. Wisdom transforms how we see the world and how we live within it. A story from the Zen tradition tells of a scholar who visited a Zen master, hoping to learn about enlightenment. The scholar spoke endlessly, boasting of his vast knowledge. The Zen master listened patiently, then offered him tea. As the master poured, the cup began to overflow, but the master continued pouring. The scholar shouted, "Stop! The cup is full." The master replied, "Like this cup, you are full of your own ideas. How can I teach you unless you first empty your cup?" Wisdom requires us to empty our cups, to let go of our certainties and judgments, and open ourselves to deeper truths. True wisdom is a humble, patient, and mindful way of living, one that not only brings personal peace but also radiates compassion to others. So, my students, let us walk the path of wisdom with open hearts, ready to learn from every experience, and let us remember that it is not in the knowing but in the being that true understanding and peace are found. The wise. In the vast expanse of human life, wisdom is one of the most sacred treasures we can possess. It is not found in the accumulation of material wealth, nor does it reside in titles or social status. True wisdom is a profound understanding of life's deeper truths and the ability to navigate its many challenges with grace and clarity. As we walk this journey, the Buddha reminds us of the importance of those we allow to travel with us. The wise person does not isolate themselves from the world but surrounds themselves with companions who nurture and elevate their minds and spirits. The power of companionship. A wise individual is like a great tree, firmly rooted and unshaken by life's storms. However, even the strongest tree thrives best when surrounded by a healthy forest, for it is in the company of others that we grow and flourish. The Buddha taught that human beings are social creatures, and we draw much of our strength from those around us. Therefore, it is essential to be mindful of the company we keep. We must seek those who embody virtues like kindness, patience, and integrity, people who inspire us to rise above our base desires and move toward a higher understanding. Take, for example, the ancient story of the sage Vidura. Vidura was a minister in the royal court, known far and wide for his unmatched wisdom. His king, though surrounded by wealth and luxury, often found himself troubled by his own mind. Vidura would offer advice that was not always what the king wanted to hear but was what he needed to grow. Once, when the kingdom faced a dire crisis, many advisors flattered the king, telling him only what would please him. But Vidura, steadfast and noble, spoke the truth, however harsh it may have been. In time, his wisdom not only saved the kingdom but also enlightened the king to seek out advisors and companions who were honest and wise. Vidura's story teaches us that true companions are those who guide us toward truth, not simply toward comfort. Avoiding the company of the unwise. Just as we must seek the companionship of the wise, it is equally important to avoid those who pull us away from the path. The lazy, the selfish, and the unmindful can be like anchors that weigh us down, preventing us from moving forward. Their influence, though often subtle, can distort our judgment and lead us into distractions that keep us from cultivating wisdom. The Buddha taught that just as a farmer weeds his field to protect the growth of his crops, so too must we remove ourselves from the company of those who drain our energy and potential. Learning from the wise. To walk with the wise is to be open to continual learning. Wisdom is not a stagnant trait, it grows and evolves through experience and reflection. The wise are not only teachers, they are also lifelong students, open to insights and perspectives that can deepen their understanding of the world. They welcome challenges to their views, knowing that true wisdom is born from dialogue, not dogma. Consider the tale of Socrates, the great philosopher of ancient Greece. Known for his relentless questioning, Socrates would engage in deep discussions with everyone he met, always seeking to uncover deeper truths. His humility and acknowledgement of his own ignorance allowed him to explore knowledge beyond what many could comprehend. His wisdom grew not from his answers but from his willingness to question, to listen, and to learn from everyone around him, no matter their status. Leading by example. The wise lead not through authority or force but through example. Their lives are testaments to the virtues they hold dear: kindness, compassion, and mindfulness. A truly wise person recognizes their own imperfections, and instead of hiding from them, they use their flaws as opportunities for growth. This is why we find such deep inspiration in their presence. They show us that wisdom is not about being perfect but about striving toward a higher understanding, even in the face of personal shortcomings. The path of self-reflection. At the core of wisdom is self-reflection. The wise regularly turn inward, examining their thoughts, actions, and intentions. This practice of self-inquiry allows them to understand themselves more deeply, which in turn helps them navigate the world with greater clarity. In this way, they discern which relationships are beneficial and which are harmful, knowing that the path to wisdom is enriched by the presence of others. The fruits of wisdom. Surrounding ourselves with wise and noble companions leads to a life of serenity and purpose. We grow in patience, compassion, and understanding. Our actions become thoughtful, and our minds are no longer tossed by the winds of external circumstances. The wise teach us that true knowledge is not found in books alone but in how we live our lives and treat others. The Buddha reminds us that wisdom is a shared journey, one that becomes richer when we walk it in the company of those who inspire and uplift us. The enlightened. The journey to enlightenment is the greatest quest any soul can undertake. It is a path of deep inner transformation, where one moves from ignorance to profound understanding, from suffering to lasting peace. Enlightenment is not some distant, mystical state reserved for a chosen few, it is the natural result of self-mastery and inner peace, a possibility for anyone who earnestly seeks it. The letting go. One of the key lessons on the path to enlightenment is the art of letting go. It is a process of releasing the attachments and desires that bind us to suffering. Those who are enlightened have learned to view desires not as sources of joy but as fleeting distractions that keep us trapped in an endless cycle of longing and dissatisfaction. To let go is to recognize that nothing in the external world can bring lasting peace, it is only through inner freedom that we find true contentment. The ancient Indian prince Siddhartha, before becoming the Buddha, once lived in a palace filled with every luxury imaginable. Yet, despite his material abundance, he felt an emptiness within, a void that no amount of wealth could fill. One day, he ventured beyond the palace walls and witnessed the suffering of the world, old age, sickness, and death. These sights shook him to his core, and he realized that all the comforts of the palace were nothing compared to the reality of life's impermanence. In that moment, he let go of his attachments to luxury and began his quest for enlightenment. Through years of self-reflection and meditation, Siddhartha found the peace he had long sought, not in riches, but in the simple truth of understanding himself and the nature of existence. The presence of insight. With this letting go comes a blossoming of insight. Enlightened beings see the world through a lens of clarity, free from the distortions of ego and desire. They recognize the interconnectedness of all life and understand that their actions ripple across the fabric of existence, affecting everything and everyone. This deep insight fosters compassion, for they see that all beings are connected, and the suffering of one is the suffering of all. Living free from suffering. In the state of enlightenment, suffering ceases to have power. While the challenges of life remain, the enlightened person faces them with a calm heart and clear mind. They understand that suffering arises from resistance, the desire for life to be other than it is. By accepting reality as it is, they no longer suffer needlessly, finding peace in every moment. Through stories of ancient sages and masters, we learn that enlightenment is not the end of the journey but the beginning of a life lived with profound wisdom and inner peace. It is a state where one is free from the cycles of suffering and desires and lives in harmony with the flow of life itself. The ripple effect of harmful actions. My dear students, let us reflect on the power and impact of our actions, particularly those that are harmful. When we engage in evil or harmful actions, be it through harsh words, deceitful behavior, or acts of violence, these deeds do not simply end when they are done. Like a stone cast into a pond, they create ripples that extend far beyond the initial act. They disturb the waters, affecting not just the person toward whom the act is directed, but also those who witness it and even the one who commits it. This interconnectedness serves as a reminder that we are all bound together by our shared humanity, and the energy we put out into the world will inevitably find its way back to us. There is an ancient story from the time of King Ashoka, a great Indian ruler who started as a ruthless conqueror. After a bloody war, Ashoka walked through the battlefield, seeing thousands of dead and wounded soldiers. In that moment, the magnitude of the suffering he had caused overwhelmed him. He realized that his ambition for power had unleashed waves of sorrow, not just for his enemies but also for his own people, who were left grieving their fallen. Struck with guilt, Ashoka renounced violence and dedicated his life to spreading peace, compassion, and Buddhism. The ripples of his harmful actions had far-reaching effects, but he transformed those waves of destruction into ripples of kindness and wisdom, influencing countless generations. Turning away from evil. To turn away from evil is no small task. It requires conscious effort, mindfulness, and deep introspection. We must examine our thoughts, scrutinize our motives, and ask ourselves, what is the source of my anger, my envy, or my desire to hurt? This kind of self-reflection is crucial, for it is in these moments that we catch ourselves before we act on harmful impulses. The Buddha himself teaches us to observe our thoughts, to see them for what they are, and to understand where they come from. I am reminded of the story of Angulimala, a fearsome bandit who terrorized villages. He believed that by taking life, he could gain power, and he wore a garland of fingers from his victims around his neck. One day, he encountered the Buddha, who simply stood in his path, radiating peace. Angulimala, in his fury, tried to attack the Buddha, but something in the Buddha's calm presence stopped him. The Buddha asked him, "Why do you pursue violence, Angulimala? What do you gain?" In that moment, Angulimala saw the error of his ways and fell to his knees, renouncing violence and becoming a follower of the Buddha. He turned away from evil, but only after seeing the emptiness of his destructive path. Cultivating goodness. It is not enough to simply avoid evil, we must actively cultivate goodness. To do so is to plant seeds of kindness, compassion, and love in the world. Acts of generosity, whether they are grand gestures or small moments of care, create ripples of positivity that can transform the world around us. We must give of ourselves, not only in material ways but with our time, attention, and empathy. When we focus on nurturing goodness, we create a powerful counterforce to the lure of harmful actions. Consider the story of Siddhartha, known as Anathapindika, a wealthy merchant from ancient India. He was known for his incredible generosity, offering food, shelter, and care to the poor and destitute. One day, when he met the Buddha, he immediately recognized the value of the Buddha's teachings and became his patron. Anathapindika used his wealth not to build grand monuments to his own ego but to support those in need and spread the teachings of compassion. His acts of kindness created a ripple effect, spreading goodness throughout his community and beyond. His legacy of generosity continued long after his life, enriching countless lives and inspiring others to give. The path to inner peace. When we turn away from evil and cultivate goodness, we begin to walk the path toward inner peace. This peace is not merely the absence of conflict but a deep sense of harmony within ourselves. When we are mindful of our thoughts and actions, we create a sanctuary within our hearts. This inner peace is a light that shines outward, touching everyone we encounter and creating a more harmonious world. The story of Venerable Sariputta, one of the Buddha's foremost disciples, illustrates this path to inner peace. Sariputta was known for his great wisdom and calm demeanor. Even in the face of insults, he remained unmoved. Once, a man berated him publicly, but Sariputta stood there, listening quietly with compassion in his eyes. When asked why he did not retaliate, Sariputta simply replied, "Why should I allow another's anger to disturb my peace?" In that moment, Sariputta showed us the profound power of inner peace, and how it shields us from the turmoil caused by others. Dear students, the chapter on evil and goodness is not a distant moral teaching but a living practice. We are given the power to shape our lives and the world around us through the choices we make every day. By turning away from harmful actions and choosing the path of compassion, we not only elevate ourselves but contribute to a world that is filled with light and love. Let this wisdom guide you, as it has guided the wise men and women who have come before us. Punishment. In the grand weave of existence, our actions are threads that tie together the fabric of our lives. Each decision, each word, each action carries with it consequences, both seen and unseen. This chapter on punishment is a lesson in the inescapable nature of karma, the law of cause and effect. When we harm others, we are not merely setting into motion suffering for them but for ourselves as well. It is a cycle that we must be mindful of, for every action, whether positive or negative, creates ripples in the vast ocean of life. The story of King Ajatashatru is one that speaks to the heavy price of harmful actions. Ajatashatru, driven by greed and power, betrayed and killed his own father to take the throne. His act of patricide cast a long shadow over his reign. Though he gained the throne, he lost his peace. Tormented by guilt and haunted by nightmares, Ajatashatru sought relief from his suffering but found no escape. His inner turmoil manifested in physical illness, and he realized that his act of evil had returned to punish him. In his final days, Ajatashatru sought the Buddha's teachings, hoping to find redemption for his soul. His story reminds us that no one can escape the consequences of their actions. Old age. As we grow older, the passage of time becomes more evident. We feel it in our bodies, see it in the faces of those around us, and sense it in the changes in our surroundings. Old age is a reminder that life is impermanent, but it also brings with it great wisdom. In this chapter, we reflect on the lessons of aging and the importance of embracing this stage of life with grace and understanding. The ancient story of the wise sage Valmiki, who in his youth was a robber, speaks to the transformation that can come with time and reflection. In his later years, Valmiki turned away from his harmful past and became a poet sage, authoring the great epic Ramayana. His old age was not a time of decline, but of fulfillment and spiritual richness, as he used the wisdom gained from his experiences to enlighten future generations. Students, may these teachings help you understand that while we cannot stop time, we can shape how we live each moment. Age is not the end, but the culmination of the life we have lived. Let it be filled with love, compassion, and the wisdom to inspire others. Cultivating compassion. As we journey through life, our hearts, much like a flower in bloom, unfold deeper layers of understanding and compassion. Age, for those with wisdom, is not a burden but a blessing. The struggles we have faced over the years cultivate an empathy that allows us to connect more deeply with others. This transformation from youth to old age is an awakening of the heart, where the shared experience of being human becomes clear. Compassion becomes not just a choice, but a way of being, a natural response to the world's suffering. Consider the ancient story of an Indian sage, Asita, who lived high in the mountains. He spent his youth in pursuit of enlightenment, often alone in meditation. One day, a messenger came to him, bearing news of the birth of a great prince, Siddhartha Gautama, the future Buddha. Asita traveled to see the child, and when he laid eyes on the baby, he wept. His students asked him why he cried. Asita, with the wisdom of his years, replied, "I weep not for the child, but for the world, which will one day lose the gift of this child when he achieves enlightenment and passes on. But I also weep out of joy, knowing that he will bring great compassion to the world." In this story, we see that compassion is not simply about feeling others' pain but also recognizing their potential for greatness and joy. As we age, we embody this deeper compassion. We begin to see others not as adversaries or strangers but as fellow travelers on the road of life. By reaching out with kindness, offering solace to those in distress, and listening without judgment, we uplift not only them but ourselves. Compassion, when nurtured, becomes the foundation for fulfillment and inner peace. Living with purpose. In the later stages of life, there arises a profound question: what is the purpose of my existence? This is not a question of regret or fear, but of reflection. Life's latter years invite us to consider our legacy, the mark we wish to leave on the world. Purpose is not something grandiose but something deeply personal, aligning our lives with our inner values and passions. There is a story from ancient China of an elderly woman named Lao Xiang, who spent her entire life in a small village, growing herbs and tending to her family. She was not wealthy, nor did she achieve great fame, but in her twilight years, she found her purpose in teaching the villagers the healing properties of the plants she had studied for decades. As she aged, she shared her knowledge with anyone willing to listen, and many traveled from distant places to learn from her. On her deathbed, she smiled peacefully, knowing that the wisdom she passed on would continue to heal long after she was gone. Lao Xiang's story reminds us that purpose doesn't need to be loud or noticed by the masses. It lies in nurturing what we love, sharing our gifts, and serving others in ways that are meaningful to us. Whether through art, storytelling, nurturing relationships, or simple acts of kindness, purposeful living ensures that our days, even in old age, are rich with meaning. Embracing impermanence. One of life's greatest teachers is impermanence, the unchangeable truth that nothing stays the same. The Buddha, in his wisdom, taught that to live is to embrace change, for life is but a series of fleeting moments. As we grow older, this truth becomes ever more apparent. We see the seasons shift, the faces of loved ones change, and the body undergo transformation. But in this awareness lies the key to true peace. An ancient Buddhist tale tells of a king who sought to find a way to avoid suffering. He summoned wise men and asked them for a gift that would make him happy in times of sorrow and humble in times of joy. They gave him a simple ring, inscribed with the words, "This too shall pass." The king wore the ring always, and whenever he was elated by victory or downcast by loss, he would look at the words and find solace. This, he realized, was the essence of life: every joy, every sorrow, would pass, leaving behind only the memory and the lesson it taught. Mindfulness, as the Buddha taught, is the practice of living fully in each moment, recognizing its impermanence. As we age, embracing this truth allows us to savor the simple things: the warmth of the sun, the laughter of a grandchild, the taste of a ripe fruit. We understand that these moments, though fleeting, are precious beyond measure. A legacy of light. In our elder years, we are given the opportunity to be beacons of light and wisdom for others. The challenges we have overcome, the compassion we have nurtured, and the purpose we have found, all contribute to the legacy we leave behind. Just as an oil lamp brightens the night without diminishing its own flame, our light can illuminate the paths of others, guiding them with the wisdom we have gathered. We become like the sage Asita, weeping for both the joys and sorrows of the world, recognizing the impermanence of all things while also celebrating the beauty of life itself. Our legacy, then, is not only the physical things we leave behind but the love, kindness, and understanding that continue to ripple through the lives we've touched. In the end, as we embrace the truth of impermanence, we come to understand that life is not to be feared but lived with deep intention, compassion, and love. Through this, our twilight years become not a period of decline but a culmination of all that we are, an offering of light to the world. The teachings as a pathway. My dear students, today, we delve deeply into the teachings of the Buddha, which offer us a roadmap toward inner peace and the end of suffering. The Buddha, in his great compassion and wisdom, laid out this path not for his own benefit, but for all who seek to be free from the wheel of suffering. The teachings are not just words to be memorized but a living practice, a path to be walked by each of us with care and attention. The Four Noble Truths. At the heart of the Buddha's message are the Four Noble Truths, which are like a mirror reflecting the human condition. The truth of suffering: life is filled with suffering, whether it is physical pain, emotional turmoil, or the inevitable loss that we all must face. Even joy and pleasure, when examined closely, carry the seeds of suffering within them, for they too are transient. Once, there was a great king named Mahavira who had all the riches of the world. He lived in a palace adorned with gold and precious jewels, yet, despite his material wealth, he was tormented by the suffering of old age and the loss of loved ones. He sought counsel from a wise sage who said, "O king, even the wealthiest man cannot escape suffering. It is the nature of life. Look within, for the true treasure lies in understanding the impermanence of all things." The king, deeply moved, renounced his throne and sought wisdom, realizing that suffering is a universal truth. The cause of suffering: this suffering arises from craving and attachment. Our endless desires, whether for material things, relationships, or status, lead us into discontent and unhappiness. The end of suffering: the Buddha assures us that liberation from suffering is possible. By letting go of our attachments and cravings, we can achieve a state of inner peace and contentment. The path to the end of suffering: this liberation is found by walking the Noble Eightfold Path, a disciplined yet compassionate way of living that brings us closer to wisdom, mindfulness, and freedom. The Noble Eightfold Path. Let us now consider the Eightfold Path as our guide, a pathway to enlightenment. Right understanding: to understand the truth of life, not through illusion, but with clarity and insight. We must grasp the nature of suffering and the impermanent nature of existence. Right intention: cultivating the right intentions in our hearts, filled with love, compassion, and goodwill. As we think, so we become. Right speech: speaking words that are truthful, kind, and harmonious. Words have the power to heal or harm, and it is through mindful speech that we build bridges of peace. Right action: acting with morality and respect for all living beings. The way we treat others reflects the state of our own soul. Right livelihood: choosing a way of life that does no harm and supports the welfare of all. Engaging in work that lifts others uplifts us as well. Right effort: putting effort into developing good qualities such as patience, kindness, and wisdom, and abandoning harmful habits. Right mindfulness: cultivating awareness of our thoughts, emotions, and actions. With mindfulness, we come to see the world as it truly is. Right concentration: developing deep concentration and meditation, so that our mind becomes calm and focused, allowing us to see deeply into the nature of reality. Ancient story: in a distant land, there was a humble farmer named Sudana. Though poor, Sudana lived by the principles of the Noble Eightfold Path, working honestly and speaking kindly to all. His village was often torn apart by quarrels and jealousy, but Suddhana's calm demeanor and integrity became a source of inspiration. One day, a terrible famine struck, and while others panicked, Suddhana remained patient and shared his limited resources with his neighbors. Through his virtuous life, the village learned the power of mindfulness and collective kindness. Suddhana taught them that true wealth lies not in possessions but in living a life of virtue. Individual responsibility. Each of us must understand that while the Buddha shows the way, it is we who must walk it. This path demands not only intellectual understanding but deep personal commitment. It is a path of self-reflection, where we must look honestly at our lives, face our fears, and rise above them. The role of faith and practice. Faith, my students, is not about blind belief. It is the quiet trust that comes from seeing the truth of the teachings in our own lives. Through meditation, mindful living, and ethical behavior, the wisdom of the Buddha becomes not just something we hear but something we experience. Ancient story: in the time of the Buddha, a wealthy merchant named Anathapindika sought the Buddha's wisdom. Though he had great faith in the Buddha's teachings, he was troubled by the suffering he saw in the world. The Buddha told him, "Faith without practice is like a seed without water. Nurture your practice, and faith will grow as naturally as a tree reaching for the sky." Anathapindika took these words to heart, dedicating himself to serving the poor and practicing mindfulness. His faith deepened, and he became one of the Buddha's most devoted disciples, showing others that through practice, true understanding emerges. The community of practitioners. Do not think that you must walk this path alone. The Sangha, our community, is here to support each of us. In sharing our experiences, we learn from one another and find strength in unity. Remember, we are all interconnected, and by helping each other, we help ourselves. The journey ahead. As we walk this path, let us not forget that the journey itself is a form of practice. The Buddha shines the light, but it is we who must take each step with care, patience, and courage. The path is not about rushing to the end but about learning and growing with each experience. Ancient story: there once was a monk named Rahula, who was known for his impatience. Eager to reach enlightenment quickly, he would rush through his meditations and duties. One day, the Buddha said to him, "Rahula, do you see the mighty oak? It did not become strong overnight. It grew slowly, patiently, with each drop of rain and beam of sunlight. So too, must your practice be. Be like the oak, steadfast and patient, and in time, you will find the enlightenment you seek." Rahula took this to heart, learning that the path is not about speed but about steady, thoughtful progress. Happiness. My dear students, we all seek happiness, but let us ask, what is true happiness? Is it in the wealth we acquire, the status we gain, or the pleasures we indulge in? The Buddha teaches us that true happiness is not found in these fleeting moments, but in living a life of virtue and peace. The illusion of external fulfillment. Many of us, especially in today's world, are led to believe that happiness lies in material wealth or external success. But this is an illusion. These things are impermanent, and they cannot bring lasting joy. We must turn inward to find the true source of happiness. The foundation of virtue. Virtue, my students, is the root of true happiness. Living with honesty, kindness, and integrity gives us a deep sense of peace. It is said that the joy of giving, the joy of helping others, is greater than any material pleasure. Ancient story: in the city of Varanasi, there lived a noble woman named Amrapali. She was known for her beauty and wealth, but despite her lavish life, she felt empty inside. One day, she encountered a monk who spoke to her of the joy that comes from living with virtue and compassion. Inspired, Amrapali began to use her wealth to help the poor, and in doing so, she found a happiness that she had never known before. She came to understand that true happiness is not in wealth but in the joy of uplifting others. The role of inner peace. Without inner peace, we cannot sustain happiness. Mindfulness and meditation are the keys to calming the mind, allowing us to face life's challenges without being swept away by them. The power of self-discipline. Happiness requires discipline. This does not mean deprivation, but rather the conscious choice to live in a way that brings lasting joy rather than momentary pleasure. The journey towards happiness. True happiness, my students, is found not in the things we chase but in how we live each moment. By living mindfully, with virtue and peace, we create the conditions for lasting joy, for ourselves and others. Pleasure. Pleasure, though enticing, is fleeting. We must not mistake temporary pleasure for lasting fulfillment. The Buddha teaches that the pursuit of pleasure often leads to craving, and craving leads to suffering. Understanding pleasure. Pleasure is not inherently wrong, but we must recognize its temporary nature. The wise person does not become attached to it, for they know that real peace lies beyond fleeting moments of indulgence. Ancient story. There was once a great warrior named Indra who was celebrated for his victories and wealth. He enjoyed the pleasures of life, feasts, fine clothes, and admiration from others. Yet, despite all this, he felt a growing emptiness within him. One day, he met a wandering monk who told him, "Pleasure is like a river that never quenches thirst. The more you drink, the more you want. But the peace you seek can only be found within." Indra, intrigued, began to meditate and eventually discovered the joy that comes not from indulgence but from inner stillness. Seek lasting peace, not temporary pleasure. True fulfillment, my dear students, comes not from chasing pleasure but from cultivating peace. When we live mindfully and with discipline, we create a lasting sense of well-being that goes beyond the temporary highs of the physical world. The illusion of lasting happiness. In our modern world, we often equate happiness with pleasure, believing that success, material wealth, and sensory indulgence will bring us joy. Yet, the truth remains, chasing pleasure is akin to pursuing shadows. Consider the story of King Solomon, renowned for his wisdom and wealth. Despite having everything, a magnificent palace, riches beyond imagination, and countless servants, he became disillusioned. One day, Solomon sat with a humble fisherman who spoke of the joys found in simple things, the warmth of the sun, the laughter of children, and the peace of a quiet moment. Inspired by this wisdom, Solomon realized that the fleeting pleasures he sought were mere illusions, and he began to appreciate the transient beauty of life. Thus, he transformed his palace into a haven for those seeking solace, understanding that true happiness lies in the appreciation of each moment rather than its accumulation. Key insights. Embrace impermanence. Happiness is often found in transient moments. Learn to appreciate them without attachment. Seek inner joy. Focus on experiences that bring genuine peace rather than fleeting pleasure. To embark on the path to lasting peace, we must cultivate mindfulness. This practice allows us to be present, experiencing life without judgment or attachment. In ancient times, there lived a woman named Tara, known for her profound mindfulness. One day, while gathering water, she noticed a beautiful lotus blooming in the mud. Instead of simply admiring its beauty, Tara took a moment to meditate on its journey. The lotus, thriving in murky waters, symbolized resilience and purity. Inspired, Tara began to share her mindfulness practice with others. She taught them to savor life's simple joys, the sound of rustling leaves, the taste of fresh fruit, and the warmth of a loved one's embrace. Over time, the community transformed, and mindfulness became a way of life, reminding them that true happiness is found in being present. Key insights. Practice presence, engage fully with your surroundings, embrace the beauty in everyday moments. Transform ordinary experiences. Mindfulness can elevate simple actions into profound experiences of joy. The role of wisdom. Wisdom serves as a compass, guiding us toward lasting peace. It helps us discern what nourishes our spirit and leads to a fulfilling life. Once, in a village nestled in the mountains, lived a sage named Rohan. People from far and wide sought his counsel, but he often reminded them of the power of self-reflection. One day, a young man approached Rohan, frustrated with his life. He believed he needed to acquire wealth to find happiness. Rohan invited him to the mountains for a week of solitude. As the young man climbed, he faced challenges, harsh winds, steep paths, and moments of fear. Yet, with each step, he learned to trust his instincts and embrace discomfort. Upon returning, he understood that true fulfillment comes from aligning actions with values, and that wealth without purpose is meaningless. Key insights. Reflect on values, take time to assess what truly matters in your life. Cultivate compassion, show kindness to yourself and others, fostering a sense of community. Embracing true fulfillment. To embrace lasting fulfillment, we must engage in activities that nourish our souls, art, nature, relationships, and acts of service. In ancient Greece, there was a woman named Lygia who dedicated her life to helping others. Despite her modest means, she opened her home to those in need. Her selfless acts of kindness inspired the community to come together, creating a network of support and compassion. One evening, as Lygia served soup to a hungry traveler, he revealed himself to be a renowned philosopher. Impressed by her spirit, he shared profound insights about the joy of giving and the interconnectedness of humanity. This meeting ignited a flame within the community, sparking a movement of kindness that resonated for generations. Key insights. Nourish your soul, invest time in activities that bring you joy and fulfillment. Practice kindness, acts of service create a profound sense of purpose that transcends material desires. Finding balance. The journey toward happiness requires balance. While we may enjoy life's pleasures, we must also recognize their impermanence. Once, in a bustling city, a young artist named Elara was consumed by her pursuit of fame. She painted tirelessly, hoping that each masterpiece would bring her lasting recognition. Yet, as the accolades came, she felt increasingly empty. One day, an elderly woman visited Elara's studio, admiring her work. The woman shared stories of her life, filled with both joy and sorrow. Through their conversation, Elara learned that true balance lies in embracing both pleasure and pain, joy and sorrow. Inspired, she began to create art that reflected the full spectrum of human experience, ultimately finding peace in her craft. Key insights. Engage thoughtfully with pleasure, enjoy life's offerings without letting them define your happiness. Seek holistic living, embrace all aspects of life, cultivating joy, compassion, and mindfulness. A path to lasting peace. As we traverse the path of life, let us remember that the pursuit of temporary pleasures often leads us astray. Instead, we are called to seek deeper meaning in our existence. By embracing mindfulness, cultivating wisdom, and nurturing compassion, we can attain profound peace that transcends fleeting moments of joy. As we journey together, may we find solace in the present while cultivating a lasting sense of fulfillment. The road may be challenging, but the wisdom we acquire will guide us toward a life rich in meaning and true happiness. Let us remain steadfast in our pursuit, sharing our experiences and insights, as we weave a tapestry of connection and understanding in this beautiful journey of life. As we gather in this sacred space, let us reflect on the importance of compassion in our lives. Compassion is more than just a feeling, it is a powerful tool that helps us navigate the complexities of human existence. Today, we will explore how compassion can bring us peace and harmony, not only within ourselves but also in our interactions with others. To illustrate these teachings, I will share stories from ancient times that embody the spirit of compassion. The power of compassion. The Buddha teaches us that cultivating compassion is essential for finding peace. It is an act of recognizing the shared suffering and struggles of all beings. When we approach others with compassion, we begin to see their humanity. This understanding can diffuse our anger and foster deeper connections. Story of the Compassionate King. Let me tell you the story of King Ashoka, a ruler in ancient India. After witnessing the horrors of war, he experienced a profound transformation. He embraced Buddhism and dedicated his reign to the principles of compassion and nonviolence. Ashoka established hospitals for the sick, planted trees for shade, and built wells for the thirsty. His legacy of compassion not only transformed his kingdom but also set an example for future generations. Through his actions, Ashoka reminded us that a single act of kindness can change the course of history. Responding with kindness. Compassion allows us to respond with kindness instead of hostility. When faced with a difficult person or situation, we must strive to see it through a compassionate lens. What struggles might they be facing? How can we respond in a way that honors both our feelings and theirs? The tale of the wise woman. In a small village, there lived a wise woman named Anaya. One day, a young man came to her, consumed by anger and frustration over a personal betrayal. Rather than dismissing his feelings, Anaya invited him to sit with her. She listened intently, allowing him to express his pain. After he finished, Anaya shared a story of her own struggles, revealing how she had once faced similar feelings of betrayal. She encouraged the young man to reflect on the suffering of the one who hurt him. Imagine the burdens they carry, she said. Compassion does not excuse their actions, but it frees you from the shackles of anger. With her guidance, he found a way to forgive, leading to his own peace. The path to tranquility. Letting go of anger is a journey that requires patience, practice, and self-reflection. The Buddha's teachings guide us toward a life of tranquility and peace, where anger does not control our actions or thoughts. Cultivating a heart of compassion. As we navigate our lives, let us remember that anger is a fleeting emotion, one that does not have to define us. By cultivating a heart of compassion and understanding, we can transform our anger into a source of wisdom and strength, leading us to a deeper connection with ourselves and others. In doing so, we not only find peace for ourselves but also contribute to the harmony of the world around us. Impurity. Key message: purify your mind and actions. In this chapter, the Buddha presents a profound understanding of purity, guiding us to recognize the significance of our thoughts, words, and actions. He cautions against the insidious nature of impurities, greed, hatred, and delusion, that can cloud our minds and distort our perceptions. The nature of impurity. Impurity begins within the mind. Our thoughts shape our reality. When these thoughts are tainted by negativity, they lead us to actions that create discord and suffering. The Buddha emphasizes that greed breeds dissatisfaction. Hatred fosters division, and delusion obscures our understanding of the world. Story of the renowned sage. Consider the story of the sage Purna. Known for his wisdom, Purna often observed people consumed by their desires and negative thoughts. One day, a traveler approached him, tormented by greed. Purna offered him a simple task: for every desire that arises, name 3 things you are grateful for. At first, the traveler struggled, but as he began to acknowledge the abundance in his life, the weight of his greed diminished. Purna's teachings reminded him that purity starts with gratitude and awareness. Cultivating purity of thought. To purify the mind, we must be vigilant about our thoughts. Regular meditation can help us observe our thoughts without judgment. Positive thoughts, such as compassion and love, serve as antidotes to greed, hatred, and delusion. The story of the silent monk. There was once a monk named Bhima who lived in silence. Villagers marveled at his calm demeanor, but they could not understand how he remained untroubled by the chaos around him. One day, a villager approached him, frustrated and angry about a local conflict. Bhima gestured to a nearby flower blooming amid weeds. "See how this flower stands in the midst of chaos," he asked. "It does not dwell on its surroundings but focuses on its own beauty." This moment of insight encouraged the villager to embrace purity in his thoughts, turning anger into appreciation. Speaking with integrity. Our words hold great power. The Buddha teaches us that purity of speech is crucial. Before we speak, we should reflect on the intention behind our words. The story of the truthful weaver. In a distant town, there lived a weaver named Mira, known for her integrity. One day, a rumor spread about her, causing her great distress. Instead of retaliating with harsh words, she invited her neighbors to gather. With kindness, she spoke the truth of her actions and invited dialogue. Through her commitment to purity of speech, Mira turned potential hostility into understanding, demonstrating the power of truthfulness and compassion in healing relationships. Actions reflecting purity. Our actions manifest our inner state. The Buddha stresses that pure intentions must translate into pure actions. Each choice we make is an opportunity to express our commitment to a life of integrity. The tale of the generous farmer. In another village, a farmer named Arjun dedicated his life to helping others. Despite facing challenges, he shared his harvest with those in need. When a drought threatened the region, Arjun organized a communal gathering to support struggling families. Through his acts of kindness, Arjun became a beacon of light in his community, inspiring others to engage in acts of compassion. His story illustrates that when we embody purity through our actions, we contribute to the collective well-being of society. Finding peace through purity. Ultimately, the pursuit of purity leads us to a state of peace and clarity. As we let go of greed, hatred, and delusion, we cultivate a sense of freedom from the burdens that weigh us down. The teachings of the Buddha remind us that the path of purity is a pathway to enlightenment. It opens our hearts and minds, allowing us to connect deeply with ourselves and others. In this space of understanding, we find not only inner peace but also the ability to contribute positively to the world around us. The righteous. Key message: those who live righteously will shine like stars. In the vast expanse of the universe, stars light the way through the darkness, each one a beacon of hope and guidance. Those who embody righteousness illuminate the lives of others through their integrity and virtuous actions. The essence of righteousness. Living righteously involves a commitment to ethical principles that resonate within one's being. Righteous individuals cultivate honesty, compassion, and kindness in their hearts. Their thoughts and actions align with a profound understanding of harmony with others and oneself. The story of the righteous woman. Let me share the tale of a woman named Kanya, who lived in a village where dishonesty prevailed. Despite the negativity surrounding her, Kanya remained steadfast in her values. She refused to partake in the deceitful practices of her neighbors, choosing instead to help others with kindness. One day, a traveler arrived in the village, seeking shelter and food. Many turned him away, but Kanya welcomed him, sharing her humble meal. The traveler revealed himself to be a nobleman, grateful for her kindness. He helped Kanya's village thrive by teaching them the importance of integrity and righteousness. The impact of righteous actions. Righteousness ripples outward, affecting the lives of those around us. When individuals act with virtue, they create an environment of trust and respect. The tale of the brotherhood. In ancient times, a group of friends decided to form a brotherhood dedicated to living righteously. They pledged to support one another in their pursuit of integrity. Whenever one of them faltered, the others gently reminded him of their shared values. As they navigated life's challenges, their collective righteousness inspired others in the community. They created a culture where honesty and compassion became the norm, demonstrating that when we live with virtue, we uplift those around us. The trials of the righteous. However, the path of righteousness is fraught with challenges. The righteous may face skepticism or misunderstanding from those who do not share their values. Yet, in these moments, their resolve is tested. The story of the stalwart sage. Once, a sage named Dhruva was criticized for his unwavering commitment to righteousness. Facing hostility from his peers, he remained undeterred. Instead of retaliating, he chose to embody kindness, proving that true strength lies in compassion. Over time, his actions softened the hearts of his critics. They began to recognize the beauty in his commitment to virtue, leading to reconciliation and understanding within the community. The radiance of righteousness. As they navigate life's complexities, righteous individuals cultivate a deeper connection with themselves and the world. Their inner light grows brighter, illuminating the path for others. The story of the guiding star. A young girl named Lila, inspired by her family's commitment to righteousness, became known for her compassionate heart. In times of distress, she would gather the children of the village, leading them in acts of kindness. Her laughter and joy became a source of hope for many. Lila's spirit radiated like a guiding star, reminding everyone that living righteously not only uplifts oneself but also fosters a sense of community. A call to righteousness. In a world often overshadowed by discord, the message of righteousness shines forth like a guiding star. Each of us has the capacity to embrace this path, to become a source of light for ourselves and others. As you reflect on this chapter, consider how you can embody righteousness in your daily actions. Strive to be a beacon of hope, recognizing that your commitment to living with integrity can transform not only your life but also the lives of those around you. The Eightfold Path is the way to liberation. In the quest for inner peace and enlightenment, the Buddha offers a profound roadmap known as the Eightfold Path. This path is not merely a series of steps to follow, it harmonizes mind, body, and spirit. Right understanding. At the foundation of the Eightfold Path lies right understanding, which calls for a clear comprehension of reality and the Four Noble Truths. By cultivating this understanding, we begin to see the world with clarity. The story of the enlightened scholar. Once, there was a scholar named Varuna, who sought wisdom in many texts. One day, he met a wandering monk who challenged him to see beyond the words. The monk asked Varuna to observe the world with fresh eyes. Through this experience, Varuna grasped the essence of the Four Noble Truths and recognized the path to liberation. Right intention. Right intention involves aligning our intentions with kindness and compassion. Our thoughts shape our actions, creating a positive ripple effect in our lives and the lives of others. The tale of the kind-hearted merchant. A merchant named Sita once decided to change her business practices. Instead of focusing solely on profit, she aimed to uplift her community. Sita invested in local artisans, ensuring that her actions reflected her commitment to the well-being of others. Through her efforts, Sita cultivated a prosperous community, illustrating the power of intention. Right speech. Right speech emphasizes the importance of speaking truthfully and kindly. By practicing mindful communication, we foster understanding and connection. The story of the peacemaker. In a small town, a peacemaker named Ravi often mediated disputes. His ability to listen without judgment allowed him to foster understanding between conflicting parties. One day, he helped two families reconcile their differences, demonstrating the transformative power of right speech. Right action. Right action urges us to act ethically, promoting well-being and refraining from causing harm. The tale of the compassionate healer. A healer named Anjali devoted her life to treating the sick. She traveled from village to village, offering her services free of charge. Through her selfless actions, Anjali became a symbol of compassion, inspiring others to engage in acts of kindness. Right livelihood. Right livelihood encourages us to engage in work that is ethical and supportive of the well-being of all. The story of the responsible builder. A builder named Rohan committed to constructing homes that respected the environment. His dedication to sustainable practices inspired other builders in the region. Rohan demonstrated that when our livelihoods align with our values, we uplift our communities and contribute to the greater good. Right effort. Right effort involves cultivating a determined attitude toward our practice. The tale of the diligent student. In a village school, a student named Meera struggled with her studies. Instead of giving up, she dedicated herself to learning. Through consistent effort, she not only improved academically but also became a mentor for her peers. Meera's story highlights the importance of perseverance in the pursuit of growth. Right mindfulness. Right mindfulness teaches us to observe our thoughts and feelings without judgment. An artist named Jai practiced mindfulness while creating. He would sit in silence, observing his emotions and thoughts, allowing them to flow onto the canvas. His artwork became a reflection of his inner journey, inspiring others to embrace mindfulness in their lives. A monk named Siddhartha devoted himself to meditation. Through dedicated practice, he attained deep states of concentration, leading him to profound insights about existence. His journey illustrates the transformative power of meditation and its role in attaining enlightenment. The Eightfold Path is a dynamic journey that intertwines all aspects of life. Each element supports the others, creating a holistic approach to living wisely and compassionately. In embracing the Eightfold Path, we commit to a lifelong journey of self-discovery and compassion. It is a path that leads us toward liberation from suffering, guiding us to a state of peace and enlightenment. Remember, we walk alongside countless others who share our aspiration for a brighter, more compassionate world. Wisdom appears in many forms. Dear students, as we gather to explore the intricate tapestry of wisdom, let us remember that wisdom is not confined to a singular doctrine or philosophy. Instead, it flourishes in diverse expressions, enriching our lives with guidance and insight. In this chapter, we will examine the nature of wisdom, mindfulness in our daily lives, the importance of ethical behavior, the value of reflection, and the necessity of embracing a diversity of thought. Each section will be illuminated by stories from the past that demonstrate the many ways in which wisdom can manifest. The nature of wisdom. Wisdom transcends mere knowledge, it is the practical application of insights into our everyday lives. To truly understand wisdom, we must cultivate a balance between intellect and intuition. In the ancient Indian tale of Vasudeva, the ferryman, we see how wisdom flourishes when we integrate knowledge with experience. Vasudeva understood the river's moods and currents, and he navigated the waters with grace. His wisdom allowed him to guide others safely, illustrating that true wisdom often involves understanding the complexities of life and adapting our actions accordingly. Story: The ferryman's insight. Once, a traveler approached Vasudeva, anxious about crossing the turbulent river. The traveler spoke of the river's unpredictability, but Vasudeva simply smiled. He explained, each wave has its purpose, just as each person carries their own story. The traveler, puzzled, learned from Vasudeva that wisdom involves trusting the process of life and understanding that challenges can be navigated with patience and insight. As they crossed, the traveler began to appreciate the wisdom in surrendering to the river's flow, realizing that wisdom comes not just from knowledge but from embracing the journey itself. Mindfulness in everyday life. Mindfulness is a recurring theme in spiritual teachings. By being fully present in each moment, we foster gratitude and awareness. The ancient practice of zazen in Zen Buddhism illustrates this principle. As we sit in silence, focusing on our breath, we cultivate an appreciation for the simplicity of being. The story of Shunryu Suzuki, a Zen master, emphasizes the beauty of mindfulness. Story: The mindful master. Once, during a meditation session, Suzuki noticed a student fidgeting with discomfort. Instead of reprimanding him, Suzuki guided him to focus on his breath, inviting him to fully experience the sensations within his body. Each breath is a moment to learn, he said. The student learned to observe his discomfort without judgment, discovering that mindfulness offers us a pathway to inner peace, allowing us to embrace each experience with clarity and gratitude. Behavior and wise decisions. Living ethically is essential for cultivating wisdom. Our actions ripple through the fabric of life, shaping our experiences and the lives of others. The tale of King Ashoka serves as a powerful reminder of this truth. After witnessing the suffering caused by war, he transformed his reign into one of compassion and non-violence, emphasizing the importance of ethical governance. Story: The king's transformation. Once, King Ashoka sat in a garden, reflecting on the aftermath of a devastating battle. He saw the grief in his subjects' eyes and vowed to change his ways. Embracing the principles of compassion, he abolished capital punishment and established hospitals for the sick. Ashoka's journey illustrates that wisdom flourishes in ethical decision-making, as our choices shape not only our lives but the communities we inhabit. The value of reflection. Reflection is crucial for personal growth. The Buddha encourages introspection, guiding us to examine our thoughts and actions critically. The story of the monk and the mirror illustrates how reflection can lead to profound insights. Story: the monk's revelation. A monk named Ananda spent years devoted to his practice but felt stagnant in his growth. One day, he came upon a still lake that reflected the sky perfectly. As he gazed into the water, he asked, "What do I lack?" Suddenly, he realized that his journey required more than discipline, it required reflection. By acknowledging his feelings and fears, Ananda began to cultivate self-awareness, leading to profound transformation in his spiritual path. Embracing diversity of thought. Wisdom thrives in a context of diversity. This chapter encourages us to embrace differing perspectives. The story of the great debate among the philosophers of ancient Greece exemplifies how open dialogue can enrich our understanding. Story: the gathering of minds in a grand amphitheater. Great minds gathered for a debate on the nature of happiness. Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle each presented their viewpoints, challenging one another with questions. As the discussion unfolded, they realized that their diverse perspectives created a richer understanding of happiness. Through respectful dialogue, they learned that wisdom flourishes when we engage with the ideas of others, recognizing that every voice contributes to the greater mosaic of truth. As we conclude our exploration of wisdom's many forms, let us remember that wisdom is a lifelong journey. It invites us to remain curious and open-minded, seeking understanding in all its manifestations. By embracing the myriad lessons life offers, we deepen our connection to ourselves and the world. Each experience contributes to our growth, reminding us that wisdom is not a destination but a journey that unfolds through our willingness to learn, reflect, and engage with the richness of life. Next chapter: Hell. Key message: avoid actions that lead to suffering. As we navigate through the teachings of the Buddha, we arrive at the sobering concept of hell, not merely a place of punishment but a state of suffering arising from unwholesome actions. This chapter serves as a reminder of the implications of our choices and the consequences they bring, emphasizing the importance of cultivating a life rooted in virtue. Understanding suffering. Suffering is an integral part of our human experience. The ancient tale of the Buddha's first discourse illustrates how understanding suffering can lead us toward liberation. The Buddha, after attaining enlightenment, shared the Four Noble Truths, shedding light on the nature of suffering and its causes. Story: the awakening of the Buddha in the sacred forest. The Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree, awakening to the truths of existence. He reflected on the suffering he witnessed in life, the old, the sick, and the dead. Realizing that suffering is an inevitable part of life, he vowed to seek the end of this suffering for all beings. Through his teachings, he emphasized that understanding our suffering is the first step towards alleviating it, guiding us toward a path of compassion and wisdom. The cycle of negative actions. Each unwholesome action creates a ripple effect, impacting ourselves and those around us. The story of karma and the farmer provides a poignant illustration of how negative actions lead to suffering. Story: the farmer's harvest. A farmer named Kavi was known for his harsh words and unkind actions towards his neighbors. One day, as he sowed his seeds, a heavy storm ravaged his fields. In despair, he blamed his neighbors for his misfortune. However, as he reflected on his past, he realized that the negativity he spread had created a cycle of discord, leading to his current suffering. Kavi began to change his ways, extending kindness and support to others, ultimately transforming his own life and fostering a harmonious community. The role of intention. Intention plays a crucial role in the nature of our actions. This chapter emphasizes the need to cultivate positive intentions rooted in compassion and understanding. The story of the wise old woman illustrates the power of intention in shaping our actions. Story: the kindness of the elder. In a small village, a wise old woman named Maya was known for her gentle heart. When others faced hardships, she offered her assistance without expecting anything in return. One day, a traveler arrived, weary and hungry. Instead of passing him by, Maya invited him into her home, providing food and warmth. The traveler, touched by her kindness, shared the tale of her generosity throughout the land, inspiring others to act with compassion. Maya's pure intentions created a ripple effect of kindness, demonstrating that our intentions shape our reality. Choosing the path of virtue. To avoid suffering, we must consciously choose to live virtuously. The story of the two wolves serves as a powerful metaphor for the inner battle between good and evil within each of us. Story: the inner conflict. An old Cherokee told his grandson about a battle that goes on inside people. It is between two wolves, he said. One wolf is anger, envy, and greed. The other is joy, peace, and love. The wolf that wins? The one you feed. This tale reminds us that by choosing to nourish virtues such as kindness, honesty, and generosity, we not only uplift ourselves but also contribute to the well-being of our communities. The consequences of neglect. Neglecting our ethical responsibilities can lead to dire consequences. The story of the silent protest illustrates how inaction in the face of injustice can perpetuate suffering. Story: the unseen suffering. In a bustling town, a group of citizens observed a vendor mistreating his workers but chose to remain silent. One day, a young girl decided to speak out against the injustice, calling for change. Inspired by her courage, others joined her in protest, raising their voices for those who were silenced. Their collective action led to positive change in the community, demonstrating that neglecting our responsibilities can perpetuate suffering, while active engagement fosters compassion and justice. The path to liberation. In recognizing the potential for suffering arising from unwholesome actions, we are empowered to make different choices. This chapter serves as a reminder that we can break free from the chains of negative actions by embracing the principles of righteousness and compassion. By cultivating a life of virtue, we not only alleviate our own suffering but also contribute to a more harmonious world. As we strive for liberation, let us remember that every choice we make carries the power to shape our lives and the lives of others. Heaven. Key message: cultivate actions that lead to happiness. As we explore the concept of heaven, we delve into the idea that heaven is not merely a distant place but a state of being that we can cultivate through our actions and intentions. This chapter emphasizes the importance of creating happiness for ourselves and others, encouraging us to live virtuously and compassionately. Defining heaven. Heaven is often perceived as a place of eternal bliss, yet it can also be understood as a state of mind. The story of the celestial garden illustrates how our actions can create a heavenly existence in our everyday lives. Story: the Garden of Joy. In a village, there existed a beautiful garden tended by a kind-hearted woman named Nina. She dedicated her days to nurturing flowers, sharing their beauty with all who passed by. One day, a traveler, weary and disheartened, stumbled upon the garden. As he inhaled the fragrant blooms, he felt a sense of peace wash over him. Nina smiled and said, "Heaven is here, in the joy we share." The traveler left with a renewed spirit, realizing that heaven exists in the moments we create through kindness and love. The impact of wholesome actions. Every positive action contributes to our collective happiness. The tale of the generous merchant illustrates how acts of kindness can create a ripple effect of joy. Story: the merchant's legacy. A wealthy merchant named Ravi was known for his generosity. He provided food to the hungry, shelter to the homeless, and support to struggling families. One day, he organized a feast for the community, inviting everyone to join. As people gathered, laughter and joy filled the air. Ravi's kindness inspired others to give as well, creating a culture of generosity within the village. Through his actions, Ravi discovered that heaven is not a distant dream but a reality we can cultivate together. The role of compassion. Compassion is the heart of creating a heavenly existence. This chapter emphasizes the need to nurture empathy and understanding in our interactions with others. The story of the compassionate healer highlights the transformative power of compassion. Story: The healer's touch. In a town plagued by illness, a healer named Leela dedicated herself to caring for the sick. She listened to their stories, offering comfort and healing. One day, a child approached her, fearful and alone. Leela knelt beside him, assuring him he was not alone. Through her compassionate touch, she not only healed the child's body but also his spirit. Leela's actions demonstrated that heaven exists when we extend love and care to those in need. The joy of connection. Connection with others brings joy and fulfillment. The story of the Festival of Unity illustrates the beauty of coming together as a community. Story: The celebration. In a small town, people of different backgrounds gathered to celebrate their diversity. They shared stories, music, and food, reveling in their differences. As the sun set, a sense of unity filled the air. The townsfolk realized that by embracing one another, they created a sense of belonging and joy. This festival reminded them that heaven is found in the connections we forge, celebrating the richness of our shared humanity. Conclusion: Creating our heaven. As we reflect on the nature of heaven, let us remember that it is not a distant place but a state of being we can cultivate through our actions and intentions. This chapter serves as a reminder that by living with compassion, generosity, and connection, we can create our own heaven on earth. Let us strive to spread joy and kindness, embracing the beauty of life and the relationships we build. In doing so, we contribute to a brighter, more harmonious world for all beings. Realization. Key message: The path of realization is a journey within. As we reach the concluding chapter of our exploration, we arrive at the profound theme of realization. This journey of awakening is an inward exploration that leads to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. Realization invites us to confront our beliefs, embrace our authentic selves, and discover the interconnectedness of all beings. The essence of realization. Realization is a transformative process that requires introspection and openness. The story of the seeker's quest exemplifies this journey toward self-discovery. Story: The seeker's journey. Once, a seeker named Kiran embarked on a quest to find enlightenment. He traveled to distant lands, seeking wisdom from sages and scholars. However, he felt unfulfilled despite gathering knowledge. One day, while resting under a tree, he reflected on his experiences. He realized that the answers he sought were within him all along. By turning inward, Kiran discovered that realization comes not from external pursuits but from understanding oneself deeply. The importance of self-reflection. Self-reflection is essential for realizing our true nature. The story of the mirror of truth illustrates how introspection can lead to profound insights. Story: The mirror's revelation. In a quiet village, a wise elder possessed a mystical mirror that reflected not just appearances but the truth of one's heart. Many villagers sought the mirror, hoping to glimpse their future. However, those who gazed into it were met with their inner struggles and fears. One day, a young woman named Aisha looked into the mirror and wept at the reflection of her unresolved pain. Embracing her emotions, she began her journey of healing. Through self-reflection, Aisha discovered the strength to confront her fears, paving the way for her own realization. The role of mindfulness in realization. Mindfulness is a powerful tool in the journey of realization. This chapter emphasizes the need to cultivate awareness in our daily lives. The story of the mindful monk illustrates how mindfulness can lead to profound insights. Story: The monk's awakening. A monk named Tenzin practiced mindfulness diligently, observing his thoughts and feelings without judgment. One day, while meditating, he encountered a deep sense of stillness. In that moment, he realized that the incessant chatter of his mind was not his true self. Tenzin learned that by embracing mindfulness, he could quiet the noise within and connect with his essence. This realization opened the door to a deeper understanding of life's impermanence and the beauty of the present moment. Embracing interconnectedness. Realization also involves recognizing our interconnectedness with all beings. The story of the cosmic web illustrates the profound unity that exists within diversity. Story: the web of life in a forest, a spider wove an intricate web that glimmered in the morning light. The creatures of the forest marveled at its beauty, yet each thread represented the connections between all beings. One day, a curious bird flew into the web, struggling to escape. The spider gently approached, saying, "Every thread connects us, we are part of the same tapestry." The bird, realizing its place within the web, found freedom in understanding its interconnectedness. This tale reminds us that realization encompasses recognizing our roles in the larger scheme of life. As we conclude our exploration of realization, let us embrace the understanding that this journey is not a destination but an ongoing process. Each moment offers an opportunity for awakening and growth. By cultivating self-reflection, mindfulness, and an appreciation for our interconnectedness, we can deepen our understanding of ourselves and the world. The path of realization invites us to live authentically, embracing the beauty of our shared existence and the wisdom that arises from within. In this journey, may we find peace, clarity, and a profound sense of belonging. To discover more rare books from Lord Kabura's Haven, featuring profound knowledge and spiritual wisdom, please subscribe to this channel, like, share, and leave a comment below. Thank you for visiting, and may many blessings come your way.